So let's dive into Juz 2 of the Qur'an. Now, if the first Juz laid the groundwork for what guidance is, this next section of Surah Al-Baqarah really gives us the divine blueprint for building an actual society. It's a major shift, moving from just defining an identity to rolling out the spiritual, social, and financial laws that would shape everyday life.
And really, this whole section is wrestling with a massive question. How do you build a cohesive, just, and thriving society literally from scratch? That was the very real challenge for the first Muslim community, and Juz 2 offers this profound, detailed answer, a charter for how to live together.
So where do you even begin? Well, the first step in building this new community was to figure out its unique identity. Before you can have laws, you need to know who you are and what you're about. And for the early Muslims, this was all defined by one single, dramatic, and pivotal event.
And that event? It was the change of the Qibla, the direction of prayer. The community was commanded to turn away from Jerusalem and face the Kaaba in Mecca instead. Now, this wasn't just about changing direction. It was a huge test of faith and the powerful declaration of a new, independent spiritual center for this growing community. And what's so telling is the verse that explains why this happened. The new direction wasn't random. It was meant to physically and spiritually center the community and establish its unique role in the world. This verse ties the change of Qibla directly to the creation of a special community with a global mission. And this whole idea is wrapped up in the term Wasat, or the middlemost community. This identity is all about balance, justice, and moderation. But it's not just a nice title. It comes with a huge responsibility. This community is now tasked with being a living example, a witness to divine guidance for all of humanity.
All right, so once that identity is set in stone, the Juz pivots from the who to the how. It starts laying out this incredibly detailed legal framework, a practical blueprint for a society that revolves around God consciousness.
And when we say blueprint, we mean it's comprehensive. It covers the absolute pillars of worship, like establishing the fast of Ramadan and the rituals of the Hajj pilgrimage. Then it dives right into the social fabric, giving detailed laws on marriage and divorce. It ensures justice with principles of retaliation. And finally, it sets up a moral financial system, one that requires charity and strictly forbids usury, creating an economy built on compassion, not exploitation.
You know, any real plan for a society has to deal with the tough stuff, right? Life isn't always easy, so this blueprint would be pretty incomplete if it didn't offer guidance on how to handle adversity. The Quran confronts the reality of life's tests head-on, giving believers the tools they need to be resilient.
Which brings up a question we all face. When life throws its inevitable trials at you, fear, hunger, loss of property or loved ones, what are you supposed to do? How does a person of faith keep it together when their world is falling apart?
And the Quran gives this absolutely foundational answer. This declaration completely reframes the entire experience of calamity. By acknowledging that everything is from God and will eventually return to God, it provides this incredible sense of perspective. It's not just a phrase you say when you're sad. It's a powerful statement of faith that anchors you and pushes you to find strength in patience and prayer. The key concept here is sabr. Now, we often translate that as patience, but honestly, that doesn't even begin to cover it. As the great scholar Al-Qurtubi explains, it's about being steadfast in your worship, persevering through hardship, and fighting that internal battle with yourself. It's not about passively waiting for things to get better. It's an active, noble state, a quality of the prophets themselves. So as we're seeing this structure for life being built, the Juz introduces divine law in a really interesting way. Not as a bunch of restrictive rules, but as these protective boundaries designed for the good of everyone. You see this phrase pop up again and again, especially right after the detailed rules about things like divorce. These are Allah's limits. It's a powerful, recurring reminder that these aren't just man-made suggestions. They are sacred boundaries that you just don't cross. And a scholar like Al-Qurtubi helps us understand the nuance here. He explains that these limits aren't just a list of don'ts. They're actually two-sided. They're the things we are commanded to do and the things we are commanded to avoid. Together, they create this incredible framework for a healthy and just society. A perfect example of getting this spirit of these limits right is how the Quran talks about charity. See, it's not enough to just give money. The entire act is spiritually worthless if you follow it up by reminding the person of your generosity or by saying something that hurts their dignity. Your intention and your conduct matter just as much as the act itself. Okay, so we've got the identity, we've got the laws, we've got the mindset.
Now, to drive the main point home, the juz gives us this incredible story. It's like a case study meant to inspire courage and prove a core message. True strength comes from faith, not from having a bigger army. It's the story of Talut. You might know him as Saul, and his army facing the terrifying forces of Jalut, or Goliath. It's a classic underdog story, one we all know, but the Quran tells it with a very specific lesson at its heart.
And the conflict is set up perfectly. You've got this small, tested, but truly faithful group up against a massive, intimidating army. The stage is set for a powerful lesson about what victory really means.
And this right here, this is the core lesson, spoken by the true believers in the army. Victory isn't about military strategy or having more soldiers. It's granted by God's permission, and it belongs to those who are steadfast and patient. It's a message of profound hope and total reliance on a higher power.
As this really dense, foundational part of the Quran wraps up, it leaves us with two of the most powerful and famous verses in the entire scripture. They are truly a pinnacle of revelation, describing both the Creator and His relationship with His creation.
First up, we have a piece of Ayat al-Kursi, the verse of the throne. Scholars called this the single greatest verse in the Quran for a reason. It's this incredible description of God's absolute power, knowledge, and majesty. Just that one line, His footstool encompasses the heavens and the earth, gives you this sense of awe-inspiring power.
And what's amazing is that right after that declaration of ultimate power, you get this verse of ultimate freedom. There is no compulsion in religion. And why not? Because the truth has been made so clear that right guidance is now totally distinct from error. Faith has to come from conviction, not from force. It's a foundational principle.
So this all brings us back to a big question for us today. We've just walked through this 1,400-year-old blueprint for a community, one built on a clear identity, structured by divine laws, and powered by steadfast faith. The question it leaves us with is, how does this ancient charter, this divine blueprint, help us tackle the challenges of building just and compassionate communities in our own world?